Thanks so much for joining me. Now that we have a better understanding of the city that surrounds the first set of temple mounds we will begin with here in the state of Mississippi, we can perhaps draw some conclusions on the things seen and unseen that are similar regarding these mounds. Emerald Mound, according to our National Park Service, is the second largest ceremonial mound in the United States, with Monk's Mound near Cahokia, Illinois, being the largest. Emerald Mound is definitely off the beaten path, and when we arrived, we couldn't get over the sheer size of it and the precise geometric angles of it. It's very impressive indeed. You can clearly observe, in my opinion, that this mound could not have been built the way they allege. And just let me quote here from the brochure. Quote, "They may have used digging sticks or their own two hands to collect soil to load up their baskets." Close quote. Just look at the size of this mound and you realize just how ludicrous their notion of how these earthenworks were built is. Do we really believe all of this earth was moved by the handful? I mean, you've picked up a handful of sand or dirt. Imagine building something this proportion or this size doing that. Of course, at the very same time, they are alluding that this mound was built by moving handfuls of earth. Can you picture yourself doing that? They also put out in plain sight in the same paragraph that there are many mysteries remaining with regard to the mound construction. Amazing that in the middle of their theories, they'll provide some truth. They also refer to a unique culture that was in this area along the Mississippi River, called the Mississippian culture. And this culture's beliefs actually follow more closely to the Egyptians and their beliefs than not. But more on that later. So their narrative goes that the first archaeological excavations on Emerald Mound occurred in 1838 and continued through 1972. This mound was turned over to the National Park Service in 1950 and designated a National Historic Landmark in 1989. Emerald Mound first appears in travel and study accounts in 1801 during the 19th century. It was known as the Seltzertown site, named after a nearby town that has since disappeared. Supposedly, it acquired its current name from Emerald Plantation, and we learned in the previous videos who really started the plantations down south. I mean, all we really have to do is just follow the money or follow the wealth. I'd like to point out some of the plantations are well known for supernatural activity too, which could be proof, at least in part, of the significance of locations and proximities to the mounds. Another thing I found out is that they spell Seltzertown differently on the brochure than on the website, and I don't know what the importance of that is. But Seltzertown, Mississippi, or Seltzertown Mound, became or was renamed Emerald Mound. They claim that when it was Seltzertown, it had 6 to 8 mounds along the summit, but only the 2 you see today remain. It covers 6 acres and is described as being of extraordinary size in the 1848 book, Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley. Seltzertown was the third stop on the Old Natchez Road, or better known as the Natchez Trace, and the United States required jurisdictions through which the trace passed to commit to development of a tavern or inn every 6 miles along the trace. A Mr. George Seltzer, from where Seltzertown's name derived, built an inn at this site which opened in 1780. But supposedly it was destroyed by a fire during the Civil War, which appears to be another signature of the Brotherhood. It appears that burning things down was the norm during the Civil War, and burning things down, when you do that, something else rises in its place. Sounds very much like the Phoenix Rising, doesn't it? I also wonder why the stairs were removed from the top mound that sits on Emerald Mound when we visited in November 2022. This pic from Commons Wikimedia is dated from January 2020, and as you can see from the pictures, it doesn't appear to look the same. Emerald Mound also served as the principal town for the Natchez Nation, and the Natchez were very different than other tribes. They claimed the Natchez moved their capital from this mound, Emerald Mound, to the Grand Village, which is a group of smaller mounds that sits 10 miles south of Emerald Mound. But I personally don't know if I believe that. From the maps that I've observed, Emerald Mound is the largest of these, and they all appear to have been in close enough proximity to each other to function altogether as one area or whole. That's how large this area encompasses. It could function like a whole community. So the Natchez Nation, or people, as I stated earlier, are, according to an early American geographer in 1797, said they were, quote, the Sunset Indians, close quote. They worship the sun, very much like the Egyptians. They also are noted for being the only Mississippian culture with complex chiefdoms and having an unusual social system of nobility classes and marriage practices. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a royal elite of today? So in the next video, we're looking at the Grand Village, which is that area that sits south, which is another group of temple mounds in Natchez.